Hey friends, welcome to this week's video. This week we're going to go over a viewer request. It's been a while since we've done these, and I was originally going to do these much later because they are $400 headphones and not the newest of the bunch. And there's plenty of $400 headphones that have been requested, but these actually came on sale right before the holidays when this request came through, so I decided to pull the trigger when they went down to $350. So they're normally a $400 set, but the sale kind of made me drunkenly decide to do this early. So I got these, and now I've run them through their paces for almost a month, so I think I have a good insight on what they have to offer. But let's get into the specs to start with. The headphones come with a round soft case that has ample space for the headphone as well as the included charging cable and 3.5 aux. The case is covered in a rough cloth that can provide some minimal portability protection, but nothing crazy like some other headphones. Moving on to the headphones themselves, they look great, and the addition of the white colorway is a nice switch up from the dark blacks that they normally do. They sit nicely on head and don't protrude too much. If you like the exposed metal vintage look, these definitely fit into that vibe. The headphones expand pretty wide and have pretty deep ear cups, so I don't think that should be an issue for anyone with big ears or big heads. The right ear cup holds all the controls, charging, and cable ports. Not gonna lie, this is somewhat of a mess. I feel like they could have simplified this a ton and used multi-function buttons here, and I don't really like that whole ANC switch. It just seems a little bit dated and another component that is less water resistant and more prone to failure. There's just a lot on one ear cup, and it takes away from the otherwise beautiful set of cans. When I received these headphones, I was extremely excited to put them on because I used to own the first generation of the wired Momentums, and they were made of this super supple sheep leather. They were just simply amazing. I mean, look at how pillowy these things look. Especially when you put them next to these Momentum 3 wireless, they just are night and day. While they say that this is genuine leather, they sure as hell don't feel like it. They're extremely stiff out the box, and even after wearing them a while, they're still pretty stiff. The stitch lines are more evident and more chunker, and it just feels less comfortable, especially when you start looking at a lot of their competitors. Like, let's look at some of the headphones that I have around me. The Sony XM4s have a noticeably softer texture and feel to them, while the P7s, a 5-year-old heavy-ass set of cans, have better stitching and leather choices with their sheep leather. Even the Pandas, despite their chunker stitches, still have some of the cloudiest stock pads out there and just feel like heaven around your ears. I'm not sure why Sennheiser decided to abandon the design in leathers from the original model, but I definitely think they should go back because that was just so much more comfortable than what these offer. Ooh, handheld video time. But yeah, like, just wanted to give a good impression on these. Like, these do compress, but they just go back to shape so fast because they're just very plasticky. They don't have much suppleness to them. But when you look at something like the XM4s, they have like sort of that memory foam kind of feel to them, where they'll slowly get back into place, but they'll still retain the good shape. And just the leather itself is just much nicer than this one. And then even when you look at the P7s, again, they're not as padded as the XM4s, but still they have better stitching. They're round, so they're just more comfortable on the ear. And they still have a better response than what these ones did. And then obviously the Pandas are just plushy as all hell. So like, they're just so nice. Like, even this big stitch, that doesn't matter because these are just so nice on the ears. So definitely the best of the bunch. But yeah, the Sennheisers need to go back. These are just very, very cheap feeling. Inside the ear cups are some sharp parts as well. I'm not sure what these are, but luckily they're in the front part of the ear cup, so your ears likely won't touch them. But why are they there in the first place? Couldn't those be rounded off? It's just very strange, I'm not sure. Moving on to the headband, it uses a smooth sliding mechanism, which seems to be much more refined over the years, as it retains the positioning of the cups quite well from every test that I've tried. Padding is minimal, and it also follows a similar stiff feel as the ear cups. While they're not uncomfortable and I didn't notice any hot spots, the use of nicer padding and leathers might be nice, especially for our friends without hair. The band itself seems well constructed, but the leather seems to be not well stitched or glued on, something like that. I did notice a weird popping when my headphones were extended out. The band mini dented, in fact. Nothing permanent, but it doesn't scream like $400 quality to me. The headband does fold down for portability, but it doubles as a method to shut it off. This is nice, but I don't like how it's the main mechanism for power. If I want to put the headphones down, I have to fold them to shut them down properly. The mechanism is also a little bit finicky. It seems super sensitive to the angle, and I found myself setting down my headphones and the left ear cup being slightly bent and realizing that the headphones turned themselves off. While they do have on-head sensors which help with auto pause, they don't seem to have a great auto shut-off time frame like competitors, which is a problem, especially when we start talking about battery life, something that we'll get into later. Okay, so this is a recording off the Parrot app on my Android device, and this will give you a good understanding with how these microphones sound and their maximum capabilities with ideal settings. So, from my testing before, this actually sounds pretty crisp and very, very clear. However, when doing this over a phone call, my colleagues and my friends were telling me that this doesn't sound as clear as it does in this recording that you're hearing. It wasn't as clear as some of my other headphones either, so the microphones weren't picking up my voice in a more natural tone. It sounded very tinny. So that could be my mobile connection, but we did a few calls over a week and it wasn't the same, and I was able to use other headphones with better results. So that's one thing to consider, is that this is probably sounding better than reality, at least for phone calls. Maybe in like VoIP stuff or like Zoom calls or like Teams calls, it'll be better because of the internet connection. But you know, there might be some variation there. But the reason why I probably wouldn't use these for conferencing and phone calls is because these headphones have some finicky stuff around head movement and interaction with the phone controls. So randomly my whole phone would go on hold, or my call would go on hold, because these headphones did that. It enacted something where it would put the call on hold just from me moving my head. I wasn't even touching it. So I'll just be sitting there in a meeting, and then it'll randomly say like call and hold, which was annoying. And I looked online, and the other people had these issues. So it's obviously something that's an issue, and I think that Sennheiser has actually called this as a bug or something that's not as reliable. And so obviously I hope this is something that they fix in firmware. However, if I need something for phone calls, I can't be doing a presentation and then all of a sudden my phone randomly going on hold. So again, if you're doing something for music, you're just listening to it for music, then I totally think that this is fine. However, if you're using this for phone calls, I would say you probably want to look for something more reliable, and that's something that I'm doing as well. So now we talked about comfort, call performance, controls. It's really need to get into some tech specs that'll be really important before we get into sound. And one of the biggest ones that was an annoyance to me was the battery life. To me, battery life should be at least 20 hours, so your AirPod Max just barely hits that. However, these are rated at 17 hours. So that is less than a lot of earbuds out there with the full charge case. So that's not something that's ideal to me. For me, a pair of over-ear wireless headphones should get you 5 hours a day for 5 days. So get you through a work week essentially without charging. So this is way under that. But in my testing, I was getting like 14 and 15 hours if I was aggressively using the microphone. So whether that be for ANC or using it in calls, that battery drained extremely quick. So I was only about to get like 2 or 3 days out of it on normal usage. And I wasn't really impressed by that. I think that with, you know, these over-ear cans, you have the benefit of having a bigger battery, so that should not be an issue. And I think that 17 hours is pretty embarrassing from a competitor standpoint. So ideally, you'd want something better. I would say if this is going to be your daily driver, look elsewhere. But if this is just something that you're going to come home and listen to, then you might be okay. So before we get into the actual sound, knowing about codecs is a little bit important here, and it's a little bit maybe a unique use case for me. So these ones are equipped with aptX LL, and AAC, so technically should be able to handle any sort of HD quality sound you know, maybe not be able to get everything, like if you have something that's like CD quality, but anything like a Deezer, Tidal, something like that, you should be able to get those through the AAC at least. So the weird thing is that these don't necessarily always get activated in the right way, and what I'm talking about here is that while it does have AAC, it doesn't default that the right way, and I can't configure it in my Bluetooth settings. So with my Sony's and my drops, I can go into the Bluetooth settings and say for high quality music swap to AAC or swap to LDAC. I can choose what that standard would be. For the Momentums, for some reason I can't. So it defaults to aptX. Even when I am using Amazon Music HD, it's still running on aptX. So I'm not exactly sure why that issue is happening, but technically it should be going to AAC since that's an available codec through that streaming service. So there is a little bit of concern that I'm not getting the best quality that I should be getting, but that codec is there, so it should be able to handle it. I just don't know why it's not getting activated. It's a similar thing with the aptX LL. aptX LL is allowing you to have low latency with video. If you don't have aptX adaptive, aptX LL is the older standard that will allow you to have that sort of seamless viewing. However, it's kind of like my Sony or my Sennheiser TW2s, where I'm getting latency issues intermittently. A lot more with the earbuds, I believe, but for these Momentum 3s, when I'm watching YouTube randomly, I will just notice that the mouth flaps and the sound aren't matching up right away. It seems to be a little bit better on Netflix. I haven't really watched a long Netflix video in a while though, but like I'm on YouTube a ton, and just certain videos, it just seems to like lag a little bit, where the drops and the Sonys don't do that. So this is really intermittent. It has the right codec to process it. I'm just not exactly sure why that's not being processed the same way. So their codecs probably could be using some kind of refreshing in firmware, but for me, it's just a little bit strange that these aren't getting activated when they should be. So let me know if you guys have had the similar issues with your Momentums. I looked on some forums, and I think some people are having similar issues, but that's just something to be cognizant of if you guys are considering this. However, now let's move into the actual sound of the headphones. So the sound signature is extremely nice. I can't complain about it much. It has this nice, unique sense of openness from a closed back headphone. So I haven't really heard these much in terms of other closed backs, as most of those just sound like speakers next to your ear. Pandas, you know, are excluded from that, but most over-ear headphones just do sound like very intimate, very close. These give you a sense that the music is around you, so it does give you a more open back feeling despite being closed back. Not completely open like an open back, but it does seem like a wider soundstage than the Sony XM4s, for example. I would say that they come in more natural too, and no matter what you're listening to. It just sounds like there's a little bit better separation in instruments, as well as anything with spoken word. It just seems a little bit more natural. So especially even on calls, when I'm listening to someone talk, it just sounds like they're at a comfortable distance and I'm having a conversation with them, rather than them being in a speaker in my ear. So there's a lot of nice natural tones that come out of this headphone, and I really appreciate it. In fact, it's the only reason why I've been really patient with these. From a technical standpoint, these things are really paling in comparison to the competitors, but then when I listen to music and I really tune into it, there's a reason why I keep picking these up, and it's really, really nice and comforting to see that. Again, like I have open backs that sound, you know, nicer than this, but from a closed back and wireless perspective, these are some of the nicer headphones that I've heard, despite it not having all the codecs. So I might be missing some detail there, but the unique soundstage that these offer, and maybe that's because of the deep ear cups, but it's a pleasant surprise. So in my next test, I'm going to show you guys all these headphones. So the Pandas, the XM4s, and the Momentum 3s on a mini DSP. And I'm going to show you some samples of a song that's on SoundCloud that just has some strings and beats. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that, you know, I don't introduce high quality music that the Momentums can't process and don't have the codec for. So this should at least level off the playing ground a little bit. I'm also going to be turning off any sort of ANC or transparency mode to make sure that the mics aren't interfering with the sound quality, and making sure that it's just purely the sound, but also because the Pandas don't have any ANC at all. So This would hopefully bring this again to parity, and you guys get a good understanding of what each of these headphones sound like, and to see if you like the Momentum soundstage over the Sony and the drops. So let me know in the comments.
Oh,
So what do you think of those samples? Hopefully that gives you a good understanding of if the Sennheisers meet your needs. But if you do want to see the HD samples with a song from Rodrigo y Gabriela, I put a separate video just so I don't get copyright struck on this video. But this will show you some Amazon HD music and compare the headphones, allowing them to use the maximum HD codec that they have available to each headphone. So hopefully you guys get the understanding of why codecs are important. Again, I'm not gonna guarantee that, but hopefully that video helps you. But check out the link in the description or the link in the annotations to see that video. But as we move on to ANC, as the last test of this long test is, obviously the pandas won't be part of this, but I did want to say that the ANC from the Sennheisers are commendable and they're definitely usable, but they don't really meet the quality of, let's say, the Sonys, the Air Maxes, or AirPod Maxes, I need to get used to that, and the Boses. They just are not on that level. Their mics can't process it as well, but it's still very viable. So if you really like the sound signature and you still want ANC for like flights and stuff, you're not gonna be disappointed, or you're not gonna hear a bunch of sound. But like, I think that the Sonys and the Apples definitely do a better job about processing that and taking out the highs and lows. So in this test, again, there's multiple levels of ANC for both these headphones. I'm only going to be doing the ANC off, ANC at the max level available, and transparency mode, so you guys get an understanding of that. The other, sub components of those, like, because Sony has a sliding scale, and I think there's 3 different variants for the Sennheiser. I'll try to put a separate video that's a little bit more comprehensive around noise canceling specifics, so look for that video in the future. But for now, check out the ANC of these 2 headphones. So all in all, I think that you're going to have to really understand from your perspective if the sound signature and stage is something that you like, and if you like the vintage looks of these headphones, because I think those are the two main driving factors of me thinking of someone who will want to pull the trigger on these. However, for myself, there's still too many technical issues that I would say that hold me back from this. So the things that I would expect from a wireless headphone aren't necessarily covered by the $50 discount with the sale and the strengths that it has on the sound and looks categories. If that's the case, then I would pull the trigger, but it's just the fact that like from a wireless set of cans, I expect battery life, I expect really seamless controls, and just some of those things that are shortcomings. So for my perception, if you're still on the fence on these, I would definitely look for a place where you can demo these, like try them out in store, make sure that everything kind of vibes with you. Otherwise, look for somewhere that has a nice friendly return policy, whether that be Amazon or even Sennheiser themselves. They have a 60-day policy in which you can return it for any reason. So that might be your best bet to get these Momentum 3s. Definitely a try before you buy, not something you can kind of pull the trigger blindly. I mean, you could do it drunkenly like me, but I would suggest against it. But yeah, I mean, overall, I like them. I was actually very torn of what I wanted to do with them, but I think I'm going to return them and get my money back. And, you know, I have the Pandas and I have some other, like I have the Sonys to, you know, fulfill my ultimate travel needs. But if I needed an audiophile wireless set, I think the Pandas still kind of beat it out, especially at that $400 price point. Anyways, I thank you guys for being patient with me. This one took a little bit longer just because there's a bunch of stuff I had to test. But yeah, it's been great seeing you guys interact with me. And I know January is slow for YouTube in general, but y'all have been continually messaging me over Instagram and on my comments. So it's been cool to see you guys. But yeah, if you're new here, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, doing all things that you normally do on a video that you like and love. And if you're returning, thank you for continually your support and helping me get to the 1,000 by the end of March. So we'll see if we can get there. That is something I want to try to do, just to like cap off the quarantine quite nicely. But yeah, as always, appreciate you guys. See you soon. Peace.